All right, let's
and I
flip
get it.
gears. We're going to start looking forward now for week 2. Time for Imagine That, presented by Xfinity. We are going to give you kind of a look forward, a potential stat line, potential scenario. We're going to imagine it. I'm going to say, imagine that Arch Manning throws for 3 touchdowns, runs for another against San Jose State, and looks like the quarterback that we thought he is. This has to be a get right game for Arch Manning. Like, he has to gain confidence. And he's got 3 weeks to do this before they play Florida. And that's going to have its own narratives, and at the quarterback position especially. But this has to be that kind of game for Arch Manning. Like, the ball has to look good coming off his arm. You can't come like sidearmed. We can't see like the footwork
That's
issues
bad.
that we saw from him. I do think he needs to. I threw in that rushing touchdown because I think he needs to scoot a little bit. We need to see him move and kind of the athleticism, the comfort in the game and in the offense. They should be able to do what they want. They should be able to work through the parts of the offense that did not work against the Matt Patricia defense. So I'm saying that. Imagine Arch is responsible for four touchdowns and looks good again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the likely scenario with Arch. And then all of the people who were like, "Oh, this guy's generational," are going to be back at it. But I think what's going to happen is the people who cover this sport and have for a very long time are going to be like, "Okay, this is probably what we can expect, and this is what he has looked like, and who we understand him to be." I think the rushing touchdown is very key as well because that offense is much better when he can run. There's
Mm-hmm.
a thought in my mind that Sark was like, okay, the last time we played Ohio State, we used him as our like running guy and we got him smoked. And we don't have the luxury of getting him smoked this time around. And maybe it changed his mentality on how many times he wanted to see his quarterback get hit in that game. But I think against San Jose, you're going to be able to go out there and get whatever looks you want and get him comfortable in the game plan.
All right, you want to give us yours, your
Yes.
imagination?
So yes, my imagine that Bryce Underwood throws for 3 touchdowns versus Oklahoma. So this kind of
Mm.
goes back to the conversations we were having a week ago about this guy, where everybody thought he was very talented. Everybody thought that he could step right in and make an impact on this offense, and he did. But it was against New Mexico, and so of course there are going to be haters out there who are like, "Oh, it was only New Mexico." Guys, I thought he was really impressive. I thought he looked very comfortable. He added a different dimension to the offense with some of the stuff they could do in the RPO game, his ability to throw at all levels of the field, and he didn't even really run in that game. But this is the moment that you get early on in a young man's career where you have a power four opponent. You're going on the road as an underdog to play in this game. Imagine that Bryce Underwood has 3 touchdowns in this game. I think that would squarely put him in the Heisman conversation and squarely put him on a level of we haven't seen this type of performance from a freshman in a little while.
I like this a lot because the more I've sat with this matchup all week, I've kind of talked myself into Michigan winning. And I think like Michigan fans had a lot of angst about like the defense allowing New Mexico to stay in the game. Listen, I think Jason Eck is a really creative coach. He had a trick play
Yeah.
touchdown. Like, there were reasons that, and I thought you have to give credit to New
He did it
Mexico
last
for
year
their
against
fight.
Oregon, by the way, when he was at
Almost
Idaho,
beat him.
for folks who weren't following that. Yeah.
Yes, he was at Idaho, and they were within 3 points against the number one team in the country all year.
Yep.
I am not. So I'm going to say, like, let's not hit the panic button on Michigan's defense after that game and the fact that New Mexico is in it. I think for as much as I really enjoy John Mateer, and we loved him, like he was must see TV in our screening room last year when he was at Wazoo, really fun to watch. I think sometimes, he's very much in the no yes camp where he's going to do things that are going to be really frustrating. He might try to be a little too fancy and like no look certain moments and certain plays at the quarterback position. Don't think you're going to be able to do that against Michigan. They're going to make you pay for that. Bryce Underwood, I think, is the real deal. He looked so much more comfortable than I expected right out of the gate. And listen, everyone's been raving about him. I guess I can't be too surprised. But this is going to be a big test. Brent Venables is calling the defense now for Oklahoma. Like, that's where we are in the sense of urgency for the Sooners. But man, I mean, that arm and how effortless it looked. He was just hitting all over the field. He seemed to have pretty good chemistry with his receivers. They have a tight end. They have running backs that are really, really good. I thought that was another takeaway from Michigan, hitting on the running back position. So I have a feeling, and I know the line in this is 4.5. It's kind of a lot of points, especially on the road in Norman. Sharon Moore coaching against his alma mater. But I think in terms of the quarterbacks, which is kind of crazy to say, because again, John Mateer is super experienced, and he, you kind of did the import the offense situation where you bring the OC and the quarterback to Oklahoma. There's been a lot of hype around that, but I think I'm going to take Michigan to cover this game.
It's interesting. I'm with you on your analysis of Mateer. I feel like he's one of those guys who could just throw it to the other team at any point, and you'll just sit there and be dumbfounded. Um, I think that there is. You mentioned the urgency. I think it's a huge deal for Oklahoma, and playing at home, I do think is going to be big in terms of the Bryce Underwood portion of this because it is difficult as a player to go on the road generally, but as a young quarterback, like that's when it can start to get a little bit crazy, especially if you see big momentum swings. That might take him out of the game for a second here. It would not shock me if Michigan won this game. It would not shock me if Michigan covered in this game, but I think I am going to roll with Oklahoma. The Barham first half thing is just kind of
Yeah.
lingering in my mind too, especially with the quarterback that can run. It messes with the defense a little bit. So I think I'm going to roll with Oklahoma, but I don't feel great about it, people.
I think it's going to be a really good game. Like I think going into the year with all that was turning over at Michigan, I was like, all right, Oklahoma will win that game, whatever, kind of writing it off. And now I think it's much more intriguing. And I hope it stays close because I'd like to learn a lot about both teams. That was Imagine That presented by Xfinity.